There. Got it at this point. Welcome back to more of the bonus episode of Krisullis for the Creative, where I have Mark on, somebody that me and Linda have done a podcast with before, alive. Both of them were absolutely amazing, which is why I wanted to bring him on this platform to really showcase his knowledge, so you guys are able to learn and just take some tips and do in this specific interview episode, whatever you want to call it, the job interview, how to go through that process, what to do, what not to do. So Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to start off with? These people never heard about you before.
They never heard about me before. Well, there's one of your first lessons in business. You don't necessarily want to be visible to a lot of people. Now, some do. If you're running for public office, or maybe you want to have a hit podcast like Moss has, then you want to be visible. But if you're too visible, then there's too much information about you out there, and it's easy for people to sort of rule you out as a potential employee. So what you want to do is pay attention to the kinds of things you're posting on social media. Pay attention to the image you're presenting to the public world. And remember, once you put something on the internet, it's there forever. People like me can find it, no matter how old you think it is. It's still out there. So that's one thing to keep an eye on. But a little bit about myself that Moss asked. I started out, my very first job ever was shoveling rocks. Rocks are about that big, and this was doing landscaping in people's yards. And so I had a series of really low-paying, very difficult jobs. And then I went to college, or I guess in some countries you call it university, but it's the one you do to after high school, like in your early 20s. I got an engineering degree, and I worked on space rockets for almost 20 years. And then kind of overlapping that time, I developed an investing fund, which is what I've been running for the last 25 years or so. And about 3 years ago, we started a podcast to help early stage companies succeed. And so that's been a lot of fun. And so I do my co-host, James Briscoe, who's also been on the podcast with Moss and Linda. And
hopefully, it's going to come on this podcast at some point.
Really, the thing I want people most to know about me, my mission in life is to spread as much joy and happiness as possible. In my case, that happens in the business world. So if you're frustrated, you can't find a job, or your employer, you can't find people, or your company's about to run out of money, I fix those kinds of problems. And then, that's my way of spreading happiness and joy, because when you're happier and more joyful, you're going to do better for your clients. And, it's better for the world in general.
For sure. And I think that's one of the main pillars of Krisullis as well. I have to bring that up in this podcast. It's really about giving a way of getting an opportunity, a new way, with the whole, to the people that spin on the Dow, that you're able to create a bounty and you're able to take up an opportunity for somebody else and make money with your skills in that way, which also helps you when you come to an interview. What have you done the past 2 years? Better than saying fuck all. It's like you've done something here, something there. Then what do you like? Let's say you have a person in for an interview and they don't want to give an answer to what they've done in the past 2 years, or really they have done nothing.
Yeah, so I love when people will just be honest. That's the big thing. I can train people how to do the things that we need done at our company. I can't train people how to be honest. It's either something you practice or you don't. So I would rather have someone say, oh, I spent the last, now I'm going to pick on Moss for the audience's benefit here. If I were interviewing this young guy from Denmark, and I said, what you've been doing the last 2 years, and all he's been doing is playing video games on his Xbox, then I want him to tell me that. Or, like Moss, he said, all right, I've done 2 podcasts, I've been sales manager, I've been doing this and that. It's important that we be honest with what we've been doing or not doing. And the reason for that is the number one thing that will get you hired is how the interviewer feels about you. That's intangible, meaning it can't be measured. It can't be quantified. You have to kind of sense out the other person a little bit. And most interviewers can smell, they can smell if you're lying or trying to hide something. They interview a lot of folks, and it shows up pretty easily. So being honest is really important, and do that with good humor. I know one time I was interviewing somebody, and it was pretty obvious that they hadn't done anything for the last couple of years, like nothing but watch TV pretty much. But as soon as they told me that, then I could work with them in the interview and figure out where they could place them. Also, what's our time mark on the thing? I'm not sure, but we need to make a special note here. This is a shout out to my friend Irina Cregan, who I met because of Moss. So I'm eternally grateful to Moss for that introduction. Which brings me to another point. If you're in an interview, even if it's not going well, ask for a referral to somebody else. See who else that person can connect you to.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. It's funny you mentioned it because I don't even remember connecting you to. I think you kind of just found each other automatically because the two networks kind of came close. Then you found the rest of the way yourself. Or do correct me if that's completely wrong.
Oh, I'll let her correct you because we were all at a folk call together.
I'm gonna hide now, okay? That's a bit embarrassing. Yeah. Well, I do apologize to the both of you. I don't have much else to add to that. Well, this is a bit embarrassing.
I just brought that up for the audience's benefit. What I'm modeling here is the idea of it's okay to joke around with an interviewer. It's okay to, and I'm not a human resources person. I'm not I'm the person that actually you'd be working for. Okay. So it's okay to have that sense of humor and joke around because you want to find out if you connect with the person. You're going to be spending a lot of time with this person, taking orders from this person. You want to make sure you're a good fit. So I just modeled that by harassing Moss a little bit to show you how that goes. And I just can't wait till it comes back in my direction.
Well, you never know if that part of the podcast might have magically disappeared.
Oh, you can't do that.
No, it's way too good of a clip. It's way too good. It's way too good of content to clip out. Well, and I think if you're able to play a moment off like that with an interviewer, are you able to see your mistake, you're able to play it off. It showcases them something as well. You're able to think on your feet. It doesn't crumble you. You just made a mistake. And talking about that, I wanted to also really give to you. Me and you, Linda, have done one before. You want to call Linda out for not being here. Actually, I had never asked her to be here. We can't really ever even call her out, but it would have been good if she was here because me and her did a live where we really went into live. I think wasn't it like a 45-minute interview, an hour? I remember there sitting sweating. Now I'm not sweating, so we're doing a lot better than last time. But it was a very valuable lesson for me because I landed my own opportunity as a manager because of that role play and what it taught me. Like after that role play, the two interviews I went to the week after, both of them wanted to hire me, so I had to pick the best one. And both of them were better opportunities than I gotten, I think, ever before. At least the ones that I've noticed or do remember. And we found out my memory is not the best. So that's why I wanted to bring that back here. And then after that, me and Mark are going to talk a little bit about what I did well and what I didn't do so well, because I do make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I think it's also about showcasing how to overcome and go through that mistake in some sort of way. So just to set it up as well, because right now I am working as a manager, I wanted Mark to interview me as a manager because I actually never been interviewed to a position. I've always worked my way up. So I think it's going to be a good challenge for me as well.
Okay. Tell us when you're ready to go.
Well, I was born ready. You know that.
Good answer.
It's
Okay, so I'm not sure what would be the best benefit for those of you who are watching this. So be sure to send in questions. Anything you heard, something that you want to know more about, just put a question down below and we can answer that in a future episode, because I want to make sure that this is beneficial for everyone. So this is an international interview. I am located in Austin, Texas. Moss is in Denmark. So I'm a Texan, he's a Viking. Some similarity and some difference, but in part of the interview, I want you to listen to see if Moss can pick up on those similarities and where he can weave in his conversation. And we'll see if he asks good questions.
If I ask, of course, I know. I forgot I had to ask questions in the interview. Good, you remind me.
You always have to ask questions. As the person being interviewed, you always need to ask questions. But they need to be questions that are personal to you. You don't want to ask just some pre-canned question you read off a website somewhere. So, okay. And the setup on this scenario, I'll be interviewing Moz for a company that doesn't advertise, and we're real quiet. Like, there's not a lot of information about us on the internet. So he's kind of going into this interview not knowing exactly what the job is, which is pretty common, because even what gets advertised is not usually what they're really hiring you to do.
Not as though there might be another opening that they're also looking to close that you are not aware of, that's only advertised internally or something.
Okay, so we'll play this as we're actually sitting face to face in a conference room, so we're both right there. Okay, you ready to start?
Well, actually, I think because of Krisullis, let's play it like virtual. Let's do that, because I think that's going to be where most of the audience is going to have the interviews. It's going to be virtual.
Right. So things I've already noticed about Moss right away. He has good lighting. He has good sound. He has good audio in his ears. You can hear me clearly. The camera's, it's either on his laptop or stabilized on a tripod or something. So all these things are very important.
It's stabilized until I kick the tripod.
There you go. And the only glare I'm seeing is way above his head, where it's not distracting off that frame above him. So in my case, and if you can afford it at all, get a blue screen or get a bed sheet, a towel, whatever, something to hang behind you, and a couple lights right in front of you, and a light straight over your head, because that just helps the interviewer see you more clearly. Okay. Hey, thanks for coming in today, Moss. How you doing?
I'm doing very good, very good. Just quickly, it's mess without an S.
Mess.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why it's spelled with a silent D, but it is what it is. But I'm doing pretty good. It's been a good, productive day. Got a few things done off my to-do list. How about yourself?
Oh, it's been quite well. Thanks for asking. So what prompted you to contact us about a job?
Well, the main thing that the main thing that attracted me was I've been a manager at a store for a few years now. I enjoy managing, I enjoy the job, but one thing that I've kind of realized is remote and work. Working remotely is gonna just give me a lot more flexibility. I'm able to plan out my own day a lot more, be more flexible. If I want some time to go do something, I can just put a couple of more hours in the 2 days before that, and I have the time.
So what were you able to learn about our company?
Well, guys are kind of ghosts. No, not that much. I could see a little bit of what your product line consists of, your services, just briefly, but not much more than that.
Okay, well, fair enough. We do stay under the radar a little bit, because when we hire software people, we want the kind of people that can find us. So that's why we do that. It's not for the rest of you guys. Yeah. So our business is we train people on how to get funding for their companies. So like if you ever see a TV show like Shark Tank, for example, it has all these people going up trying to get funding it. That's a
I love that
fantasy
show.
show. That's very scripted. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's entertainment. It's not real life. And so we train people in all the intangibles. Our street cred on that is we have our own investing fund that has done extremely well over the last 25 years. And it's just that's how we know how to help early stage companies and startups go get money and how to talk to investors and what investors are looking for. And we've seen a lot of companies fail. So we know how to teach people to avoid those problems. So it's a little bit different maybe than what you're doing now. I saw on your resume, you were managing a shoe store. Is that right?
Kind of managing a small section. Nowadays,
Okay.
it's a bigger, it's a different store. It's more of a hypermarket. You know, your Tesco's. Is that British or American? I can't remember. Always confuse them. It's kind of like Tesco's, just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, those are British, but okay, that gives me a good idea. So what are your biggest headaches with managing people? What are things like if you didn't have to do it, you'd just be really excited to get rid of?
If I didn't have to do it, well, people call it in sick. I prefer that never happened. That's one thing. Um, Besides that, I think it's people not being grown up enough to be able to talk to each other about problems. Like, let's say you and me are friends. If we had a problem, we've grown enough to talk just to each other to figure the problem out. We wouldn't have to have a third person to come in or create a huge drama. I think that's the two things to me.
And how do you typically respond when someone does that to you? They complain behind your back or they start a lot of trouble, but they're too much of a coward to talk to you to your face. What do you do with that situation?
Well, if people talk, depends. That really depends on the person. I think if it's an employee, it is what it is. I might have offended them in some way. Sometimes I can be harsh because I think there's a time and place for that. Besides, if it's like I'm not a manager, I'm not a person at the same level above, I think you need to have a conversation. If it's the level above, it's probably best to go to, let's say, a section manager, so they can speak more on the same lines. There's a very like much a top-down approach where I work, so it's the best for relationship purposes.
So have you ever had to fire someone?
Have I ever had to fire someone? Yeah, I've had to. You find out in the first couple of 3 months that we have a trial period over here in Denmark, or people that just decided not to show up to work.
Oh yeah, that's an easy
So,
one. They're not
yeah.
there.
So, well, I don't know if that's categorizing it as firing somebody, but it happens, sadly. I don't really see how, but it does happen.
So what's your experience dealing with international customers or clients or suppliers or what? I mean, how are you dealing with international people?
Well, that's one thing that's really my eyes open to that whole scene the last 2 years. I do run a podcast, The Two Perspectives on the Side, with a beautiful American lady called Linda. Besides that, we have a lot of guests coming on, a lot of business people, just people internationally all around the world, and just falling in love with speaking from people from different cultures. There's so many more stories. You hear new things all the time. It's just exciting. It's new.
How much experience have you had dealing with investing and analyzing companies and thinking about how management structure is running?
Um, I'm just going to split that question up into two, if that's okay with you. The whole investment thing, I do invest myself. I have a stock portfolio, a crypto portfolio, and I do personal investing. I made profit so far, but you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Besides that, I don't have much else when it comes to investing, but I do think I'm very much, when I want to learn something, let's say something new comes up, like when I started investing into crypto, what is a blockchain app? Yeah, I heard it around town. heard the word blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. But what is it actually? Well, the easiest way to find out is go on YouTube. What is that? Like, how is that going? Like, always looking for those questions, the answers that come up along the way. So I think I'm able to adapt very fast to a new environment. And management, I normally, on a day-to-day basis, we are 20 people that's on every day. A section all in all is 50 people. So I'm experienced in managing people. Of course, it's a bit different than doing it internationally, but I do know the tools, and I'm also utilizing the different booking tools, scheduling tools, Google Calendar, all those things because of the podcast. So I think those two things can be combined, or those three things, and also the going out learning those different things. I don't know if you was looking for a more experienced person.
Not necessarily. We can teach you how to do what we do. That we're asking more personal, nosy questions. Speaking of which, what languages do you have besides Danish and English?
I understand Swedish when I'm drunk. Norwegian, nope. They tried to teach me German for 4.5 years. Didn't work. I know a couple of Serbian and Russian words. Well, I couldn't have a conversation in them. So I don't think I can say more than those two.
Okay, well that's fine. No, as far as Europe is concerned, what's your favorite people outside Denmark to deal with? Like people from what country?
My favorite people, the British or the Germans.
Well, they're very different.
Yeah, but when you go to Germany, everything is over-engineered. The toilets are way too over. It's not just a toilet. There's like, it's closer to Japanese toilets. Those are also very over-engineered, but everything is just over-engineered. It's so nice. British, they just have great humor. They have very similar humor to Danes, very like dark humor. So it's just hilarious. And they have I think when it comes to culture, the UK also has a bunch of good music, influencers, like content coming out of it. It's one of the hotspots. Even better than America in my eyes.
Well, Texas isn't necessarily like the rest of the country.
No, not really.
So
I heard you guys, you even have your own power grid, don't you?
Yes.
You don't like the rest of the country that much. You don't trust them enough to control the power.
I think it's more because the people that founded Texas were always tri-racial. There was whites, blacks, and Spaniards. And when I say Spaniards, I mean it was the Spaniards intermixed with the Indians that were here. So that kind of created another group of people. So with that mix of always being multicultural and multi-ethnic, Texas just kind of grew up in this idea of you're responsible for your own behavior. You need to get along with people that are different than you. And so, yeah, I mean, this just kind of over the last almost 200 years now has kind of grown into this thing where, no, we don't want to depend on the rest of the country if we don't have to. There's a lot of self-reliance.
Yeah, self-reliance is a good thing, especially in today's world. There's trouble all over the place.
So what questions do you have for me?
Well, I think, like, first of all, I would love to hear a bit more about the companies. If you're if you're able to share. It's like my English is completely gone. I hope it's okay. But yeah, what companies, like what kind of niches are you mainly investing in, just to know if it's something that I can resonate with personally, because I was not able to find much online.
So our company split into two sections. There's the training section where we train our clients, and there's the investing section where we invest. Now, in the investing section, I do a thing called eating my own cooking. That is, everybody on management team is expected to invest most of their personal money into our investments, right? So everybody has what we call skin in the game. And if you want to follow us, we do publish a newsletter by subscription that anybody can subscribe to that newsletter It's a paid subscription, and you can see exactly what we're doing, and you can copy us. As far as the types of companies we invest in, I invest in what's called value companies, which means they're trading at a lower price than what they're worth. And so some of those, and these definitions are a little bit nebulous. You'll hear terms like value and growth, and those are two different types of stocks. But sometimes there's companies that straddle the line and do both. So you could have a growth company is typically one that is projected to grow pretty quickly or continue getting bigger dollar-wise.
Yeah.
But sometimes if a company is trading way below what it's actually worth, then you could qualify it as a value stock because it's cheap compared to what you're getting. And so we are in 25 different industries, you could say. So we're worldwide. The job we're hiring for right now, we're looking for a couple people to come on board and help on the training arm, which is a lot more sales oriented. Now, how do you feel about doing sales? And when I say cold calling, I mean, you're calling people with a definite purpose. And we've identified the people that need to be called. So you're not just, you're not telemarketing. I hate those people.
Cold calling has a lot of different definition nowadays. I don't like one of the definitions. I don't like you call a random person you don't know, have any idea who the person is, about something random they don't want. Tried that. It's good training. It's good for learning to take no's, but I'm not doing it again. I learned my lessons.
Okay, so you've already done that. That's good. That's really important to us to have people that have kind of done that, because in my experience, once someone's made 200 or 300 cold calls, they're not afraid to pick up the phone anymore.
No, yeah, you've got a lot of no's. You had days with only no's, like didn't even get a yes a whole day. When you had that before, it's like can't get worse. You have hit. You've tried the worst. Yeah, like you can't have a worse experience than that day. So just get on with it. Like, what can you do differently to get some yeses?
So you'd be getting leads that we've already qualified, and typically they're an early stage company. So you'd be talking to the person that started the company, or their second, what we call second chair or executive officer or something like that. And you'd be contacting them first, either through LinkedIn or one of our other mediums before you make the call. So the ones that respond are the ones that you're going to call. You can start talking to them about what we offer, and we'll train you in all that. So what, I mean, a lot of the training modules you would be going through at the same time that you're doing the call, so you know what you're talking about. So you can see for yourself what's going on. Do you have any other questions?
Well, when you look at companies, like what kind of stage are we talking? Like how big are the companies?
So they have to have a working product or service already working, already proven, and they have to have a budget. So our first hurdle for onboarding a new client, the first phone call with myself and James is $1,000 up front, and they get a money back guarantee on that. So after that call, we send about anywhere from 15 to 20 page report on our analysis of their company and list of suggestions and a list of training. Everything's customized to them. And if they don't like what they receive, they get that money back. You still keep your commission, but they get the principal back, because we're confident they're going to love what we do. So typically they're not going to tell you their budget. They're not going to tell you how much money they have on hand. That's part of what we discover, what James and I discover in that first phone call with them. So on your initial end of it, the first call is about getting them to do the first in-depth phone call with us. So it's more reading their psychology of what hurts, what's the real problem they need to solve, and how do you handle someone that says to you, oh, I have this, I'm just going to use this example. I have this great new invention here, this little box that does all these magical things, and I need to raise, I need to raise $40 million for my IPO and blah, 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 blah. What would you say to a person that says they can't spend $1,000 on a phone call?
If they want to raise $40 million for an IPO.
Oh, we have these calls. Yeah. So how would you respond to that?
Well, I hopefully at that point we've clarified why they don't have $1,000 for a phone bill. If not, I would get that clarified, because I never heard that before. But depending on how and why, I think if they don't want to have $1,000 for a phone bill because they're actually so invested in the company, I think it's a good thing. But also, kind of, if they actually need the money, I think there's a lot of different scenarios with it. There's of course also a scenario where it's worth spending that money because that phone bill of $1,000 might be able to make you 10.
Right.
But some people are not able to see that.
Okay.
So it's able to showcase in those things, the places, acknowledge the places where it's good that they're not spending more than $1,000 on a phone bill. And then you locate the places where there's potential if you spend more money. And kind of showcase those on the what do you even call the calls before you get on your games, just so I use the correct terminology.
I refer to them as qualification calls.
Okay. So on the qualification call, I'm able to showcase that we, as a company, all of us, are able to bring value.
Correct. So how are you set for salary? What are your expectations?
Well, you talked about commission, and depending, I don't know, is there base plus commission or just commission?
So whatever you negotiate.
Whatever I negotiate. Well, I prefer commission, really.
Okay, we can do that.
What kind of commission? Do you have a certain commission in mind?
Yeah, I'm just putting pressure on you right now to see how you respond. So that's what's going on.
I know exactly what you're doing.
Good. Because as you know, and doing any kind of Zoom calls to do sales, you've got to be able to deal with that pressure. So you'll have everything from people trying to steamroll you or get it cheaper to people that are trying to get that initial call, but they're really not qualified to be clients of ours. And you have to figure all that out. As far as the actual pay between me and you, it's a straight up 20% commission on that first call, which I don't know what your conversion rate's going to look like. And you don't either. That's something we'll have to see as we go along, obviously. But yeah, 20%, 20% was kind of the idea. And then what our company does do every quarter, so every 3 months, we look at all our revenue being money that came in. We deduct our actual expenses, taxes and all that kind of stuff. And then what's left over, we just split equally. So that's a quarterly bonus that we do.
Oh, that's nice.
So, that's, if we're doing good as a team, everybody makes more money that month, that quarter, that 3 month period. So
yeah.
So it's not a consistent income like if you're working in a regular hourly job or something. It does vary. So how are you at taking orders from people that have different speech patterns than you? Like Danes and Texans actually have some similarities in the culture and the way we speak, but that doesn't necessarily apply to other people groups. So if someone speaks very differently than you do, how do you build rapport and get connected to them? What are you listening for?
What am I listening for? They speak differently. That's actually a very good question. I think I kind of play along with things that I pick on people say through conversation. the words that
Good.
they use. There's a few little words there. I like to, back when I did a lot of sales, call them trigger words, because you're able to go into those words, go a lot deeper. So I think I use that a lot more because I don't have the life experience yet to be familiar with every nationality and speech pattern that comes with that. So I need something that I can utilize beforehand before I get that experience.
No, that's really good. Okay. Do you have any final questions for us before we wrap up?
No, I think the last question I had in mind, you kind of touch upon yourself, was the whole payment thing, commission based, but we kind of discussed that. So I don't actually know. No, I don't have much else. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day if you don't have any more questions for me.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming in. Okay. So
Thank
we're
you
going to
very much for your time.
end the role play now.
Forgot one question. Forgot one fucking question.
You did.
When can I hear back? When can I expect to hear back? I noticed. Fucking noticed. Well, at least I caught on. I would, if Mark didn't do that thing, I would have been able to catch it in and then maybe play it up in a fun way.
So there's we can role play that right now, but I was going to say for the audience, there's two things you do in that situation. We have all been there. If you forget to ask the person, what's the next step? When would I hear from you? We all forget to ask that sometimes. The best thing to do is get an actual card, like actual note card or something. Write it out to the person and send it to them in the actual mail, because nobody does that anymore. That will really make you stand out to the interviewer. And all you say in that card is, hey, really enjoyed our conversation. And if I'm not a fit, then can you recommend me, or can you connect me with somebody else? Just ask, because people love to give advice.
Even if you remember that question I forgot, you can still use that tip that Mike has given.
Oh yeah, completely. So yeah. But let's role play that, just because Moss said he wasn't going to forget. Do you have any final questions for us before we wrap up here?
Just here before we end up here, when can I expect to hear back from you?
So we will look at all the people that have contacted us to apply, and then we'll get back to you on that.
Any timeline?
No, we'll just let you know. So what I'm doing here, audience, this is pretty typical if you're talking to people that A, they don't really have a job, or B, they don't really know what they're looking for. And you gotta make a choice, one path or the other. You can push them harder, which is Moss is starting to do, which is good for things like sales, management, any job that's going to be more high pressure, because the fact you're willing to push is good. Or you can be the kind of person that doesn't push. And you got to do what's natural to you. You might not want to be in a high pressure job. So I forgot one final question.
Well, what's your final question? Let me hear it.
How are you at taking orders from Moldavians? Because Arena might be our next vice president, so you better not say what's a Moldavian.
I don't know if I know I never heard that country pronounced in English before. I think I know what country it is. Isn't it a small Eastern European country?
Yeah, even smaller than Denmark, I heard.
The only experience I have with a Moldavian, besides Arena in real life, is what's the name? A cab driver. He was the nicest guy I ever met. So I don't know yet.
Anyway, what I was doing there, interviewers will sometimes throw out questions just to see how you respond to a bizarre question. And you never know what they're going to ask.
Well, it was first when you mentioned Arena, it caught on to me it was a country, because I never heard the word before in English. So I had to quickly make a connection to the country in Danish that had the closest name. It was like, okay, it's there. I've heard this beautiful country. I met a nice cab driver once. That's it.
Oh, that's hilarious. So how do you guys pronounce it?
Moldovan. I'm Moldovan.
Oh, okay, so not that different.
It's not. It's really close. It's just the pressure is a bit different.
So what else do you think your audience would like to know about?
Well, I think we can kind of speak about a certain things within the interview. I don't know if there's something you want to highlight you picked up upon.
Well, I would highlight something that seems to be very common in Western cultures, which I mean like North and South America, Australia, Western Europe, kind of that Western hemisphere of the world. There seems to be a common thing where some particularly younger people have been raised to think that external factors are more important than internal. So things like your height, your size, your weight, your color, your gender, these are external. So I would say to everybody, when you're interviewing for a job, obviously you want to look the part for the job you're going for. So like Moss is wearing a shirt with a collar and a sweater, for example. I have a shirt with a collar. So because we're talking about more professional job. So think about what do the people in that company wear? And you can see a lot on LinkedIn. Look at what their executives, what kind of profile pictures they have, what they're wearing, and dress something that kind of fits in with that culture. And don't ever put this thing in your head that you didn't get a job because of external things. Most of the time when you don't get a job, it's because you didn't have a good connection with the interviewer. So it's all the intangibles. How are you speaking? How are you coming across? How are you answering questions? These count so much more than the external factors. And I'll tell you folks, one thing that I've seen done again and again and again in business that's really effective. If you're speaking in a second or third language and you have an accent, just ask about it right away. And I saw Moss do this one of the first times I talked to him. He's like, how do I sound right now? And I was like, so that's important. Like my Japanese is horrendous. So if I'm talking to a Japanese person, I say, okay, I'm really bad at Japanese. If something wasn't clear or it sounded strange, tell me so we can back up. So that's how you deal with the languages.
I remember that part of my life very, very well.
Yeah,
it was because I had to really start putting the and pronouncing that very hardly because I was just sounded like that, I think, to the other person. And I still catch myself from time to time doing that. It's gotten better. But it's not quite there. I think it's never gonna be because I'm not born American or British.
And I do it, and it's a really good idea for all of us to ask the other person, how am I sounding right now? How am I coming across? And you may normally get the response of, what do you mean? Because they're not thinking about that.
I like to, when I get on professional calls with people I don't know, I make sure to check my sound before I go on. Check everything. Yeah. Does everything work? Does it sound good? Just so you don't end up in the awkward situation where you can't hear each other or you have to download something and you show up late. If you know a person, you can text them, you show up a little bit late. People normally don't mind.
Right.
But if you don't know a person, it's a very bad first impression because other person always like that.
And that's a good point you bring up. I have been the interviewee that have been subjected to tests I didn't know were tests. Like you're on the way to the interview and someone on the street stops and says, hey, I need help. I just broke my ankle. Can you help me get to the hospital? Or, that sometimes a company will send a person out to intercept you as you're on your way to the interview. They will, because they want to see what kind of person you are. And there's no right answer. The right answer is what's natural to you. If it's natural to you to stop and help, then do that. If you're a total jerk and you would just leave someone to suffer, then do that. Do what's natural to you, because you don't know what that company's looking for. But I've seen that. And another one I've seen, I think we talked about this one time. Sometimes then they'll do it on purpose. But sometimes the person on the Zoom call doing the interview will have all these distractions going in the background because they want to see if we are able to get them to focus in the middle of chaos, because that might be part of the job. So I say, don't ever let the externals of you affect how you think. Think about the connection and the internals. You know, who are you at your core and how to communicate that.
Yeah, just be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
The more honest you can be in an interview, the more stuff you can get away with, because the less questions an interviewer think they have to ask you about something, because you seem as an honest person, you come up honest, so they don't have to dig in deep. And also, if you're just honest, you don't end up going back on yourself, because that's one
Right.
thing I know from the interviews we have at our job. Most people get caught up going back on themselves, especially when you're young. You get caught. I've done it multiple times myself. Get caught by saying something and then saying something that don't align with what you said before later on in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's such a dangerous thing to do, because for most people that means nope, that's not going to be you. Then you need to do a damn well the rest of the interview.
And we always have to
Yeah, go
remember
ahead.
the reason why people hire help is because they're overloaded.
Yeah,
So
and
they
normally
need to know that they have a connection where they can just throw stuff at you and you're going to take care of it.
also, I think this is something you said to me a while back, is they hire help when they have been overloaded for a long time. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
when they just
yeah.
it's
No.
not when it starts, it's when we can't live with this shit anymore. We need somebody now.
Which is one of the
So
questions I asked you in that mock interview, right? Because
yeah,
the deal was you'd be on the phone prospecting to get people on this initial call, right? So I need to know that you as a candidate are able to figure out how much pain somebody's in. Is this call going to make sense for them? Because if they aren't been in pain for a while, then they might not be ready yet, which is fine, but we want to know where they are. So it's really good that you said that. So I'm going to get myself in trouble some more now, because, you know, that's what I do. Tell me tell me about Sweden.
no. Now you're gonna get me in trouble. Tell you about.
You don't have to answer that. I just
Swedish people that are within Krisullis, and to all actually more to the Swedish people, non-Swedish people within Krisullis. Denmark, Sweden, and Norway are kind of like brothers. Hate each other, but at the end of the day, it's really love. Well, the Swedes, I think right now in Europe, we're much more focused on other like Ukraine than the Swedes. Swedes are, but they just speak so just sound so stupid when they speak. And just it's a Swedes are nice as long as they just don't talk.
You're gonna get in trouble, man.
I know. That's why I put a disclaimer to remember this. Yes, but you know the only kind of trouble that I'm gonna get into is Swedes roasting me in the comments. You're
Yeah,
Danish, this, and the third, and well, they have earned it. You can have a field day down there.
good.
Well, Sweden, they got nice mountains. It's nice to go up skiing. I don't go to Sweden much. I don't like cold, and there's just more of it up there than there is here. So actually, a lot of people go up there for shopping. Well, I don't see the point. I want to in Sweden. I want to see somebody somewhere else, like Malta, for example. I would love to go to Malta.
Malta.
Is that how you,
Yeah,
how
me
you
too.
pronounce? Such a nice island. Actually, I was supposed to go, but COVID. Yay! This was like half a year ago, just before we entered into lockdown in Europe. Oh, kind of messed everything up, but it is what it is.
Man, if you go down there, you got to see Mark.
Yeah, I was supposed to meet up with Mark,
Cool.
but it
Cool.
never. We spoke about it, booked the vacation, and then because of well, you needed to be vaccinated. I think it was 14 days before, and I was vaccinated 12 days before. No, 2 days. Bureaucracy for you, and I'm not going to speak about that because then I'm going to get into a lot of trouble, and not only with the Swedish people. That at least that I can deal with. They make fun of us no matter what I say. If
I know.
say something about them or not, they're gonna make fun of me. Either I'm a puppy twat or I'm an asshole. That's
my Swedish friends say the same kind of thing about Dage. You guys are really funny.
Yeah, it is kind of like a brother and a sister, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
Constantly fighting each other. It's just back and forth. It's the same with Norway. The exact same thing. It's I don't understand why Scandinavia is just like not one big happy place. We're like small happy places. Jesus Christ, my English is going bad. Dude,
well, you're up really late tonight. We should probably
my saliva, like I don't know why, but speaking English to me just dries my mouth out, and I don't have anything to drink here. Nah, I won't show it on camera. The only thing I have to drink is 40% alcohol. I don't think that's going to be a good idea.
Probably not.
Not to get demonetized. It's going to stay over there. I'm not promoting it. I'm not showing anything. So we do kind of have to wrap this up.
Okay.
Well, first of all, if people did enjoy this episode, tell us down below. Swedes, roast me, ask Mike questions, and me, of course. If you want us to revisit this with maybe going into more details about a specific part, this was more of an overview, do tell us as well in the Telegram group or down below. But Mike, if people want to either know more about investing or start listening to you and James's fantastic podcast, I've been on there myself once, I think. Or didn't me and Lyndon do a joint episode as well? Now
yeah, we've had you twice. You'll be back.
Oh no! That's the second time. This is so embarrassing. Yeah, we did the collaboration episode, me and you.
Yep.
The two perspectives on your podcast, and then we did a specific episode for your podcast.
So you can get a hold of me at capitalfinders.live. So that's capitalfinders.live. That's our company website. We have a whole bunch of our interviews we've done. Moss is at the very top with an audio that we did one day when both our cameras weren't working. And it gives you a really good overview how to do a phone interview when you can't see the other person. So definitely contact me there.
We might have to revisit it now that
camera's working. And of course, anybody listening to this, if you want to connect to me on LinkedIn, go do that and tell me you heard about me on this Krisullis show. So that way I'll respond to you personally. So that way I know, how you heard about me. But yeah, I'm always glad to hear from people that are trying to get their businesses going or grow their businesses.
And I'll definitely encourage anyone that's listening to this to take Mike up on this offer, because it's been a huge help to me over the last 5 years. We've known each other for
a while.
Either it's just been 5 or we're coming close to 5. I was 19 back when we met, and it helped me out a bunch. So therefore, I would encourage anybody that was in a similar position to me back then, or isn't a similar position to me even now, to go and connect with Mike. Been a huge help to me. Connect with me. You're also more than welcome to do that, and look forward to the episode. Hopefully, I haven't even talked to James about this yet, but hopefully the episode with James, really want to get him on here as well. Besides that, like, subscribe, follow. on whatever platform you're listening on. And take care.